It is 5:10. I think 5:10 right on the dot. I think I made it right in time. And appreciate everyone being here. Let's give a quick skim through YouTube and see who's out and about. If anyone's going live. So I just did a video on A Course in Miracles and explaining where it's been in my life, where it's going in my life. That I had encountered it in the 80s, read books about it in the early 90s, started practicing in the mid 90s, early to mid 90s, kept putting it aside and putting it aside for almost, for well over a decade, but actually probably longer, until 2008 when life was at its worst. Uh, Looming divorce, my mother's final months with her decline in Alzheimer's, my father being her caregiver who suffered a stroke. Um, Things are just a mess, as they always are, because it's life. That's what the Course in Miracles asks us to do, is look beyond the mess of life to the reality of love that's ever present. It's not easy because we're immersed in the mess. In the Tao Te Ching, they call it the 10,000 things, because 10,000 things, things are always happening. 10,000 is just a metaphor for a whole lot, an infinite amount. Our friend Bumblebee T is here. T, how are you, my friend? Um, so, 2008, not only just a divorce, but my wife, Mocha, um, did a tour in Iraq. She was in the 23 years, 23 and a half years in the Air Force. So that left me alone with my, at the time, 13 going on 14-year-old stepdaughter entering high school. Uh, Difficult time for any kid going into high school. Difficult time for a very sensitive person going into high school whose mother is away and is left alone with a unskilled stepfather, a caring stepfather, a stepfather who loved her. Um, but I didn't have experience being a father to a 13-year-old girl. I became her stepfather when she was, I think, 8 going on 9. And I loved being a stepfather because I had a lot of help. You know, stepfathers don't. Mocha's there. Hello, Mocha. I'm just talking about some stuff. Stepfathers don't, they don't often have to step in a in a firm way. You know what I mean? They're the fun person usually. But then with Mocha in Iraq, I had to step up and be not just a stepfather and a friend, which I've always tried to be to her, but the disciplinarian. Um, and to all the credit in the world to my stepchild, she was incredibly easy to be there for and to take care of. And in truth, she probably took care of me as much as I took care of her. Because again, it was a pretty bad time. Constantly worried about the person that I loved being away, being away, serving her country in the middle of a war, constantly worried about my dad recovering from his stroke, constantly worried about my mom, again, final days of Alzheimer's. What a perfect time to pick up A Course in Miracles. This is my original book that I got in 1990 something, 91 or 92. And it was a perfect time to commit to it. And I did for the entire workbook and reading the text, which is 365 lessons, one a day, not to be repeated more than one each day. You can go over it more than once, but don't do more than one each day. Milka says she was 9. So the book was a great comfort for me, and it did what I needed it to do, um, which was fill me with peace to the extent that I was capable of realizing it at the time. What it didn't do was cause me to hold my ego a little more lightly than I had um, hopes for at the time. You know, hey, I was shooting for enlightenment. Instead, I settled on no small amount of joy. That's not a bad thing. It's not a bad trait. So I'm going to bring my desktop up so it's easier to read your comments. Dottie's here. Dottie says, good evening, all. Good evening, my friend. T says, I'm okay. Just woke up from a decent nap. Awesome. Needed a break from things and was a decent sleep. I'm glad you got to sleep and got pizza from Hotel Diner. Sounds like a good day. I'm glad you got that sleep. I'm glad you're getting some food in. So everyone's saying hi. Dottie or Bumblebee says, T says, Yogi, how old is she now? And Mocha says she's 31. T says, Dottie, when I can, I need to watch more of your channel. I've been hard with health. Dottie says it'll always be there, which is wonderful to hear. Again, I've mentioned before, I mention as often as I can. Dottie planted her feet firmly in the ground and looked the world in its eye and said, I'm not going to be pushed around. I'm not going to be bullied. Not by a single individual or not by anyone. And she reestablished her commitment to her channel and her project and has been putting out beautiful content ever since. Dottie's a good friend and a wonderful YouTuber, which I think is an official thing. Let's see. Carmaran? I need to get better with names. I apologize if I said that wrong. I'm going to bring it up on the big screen. A little easier for me. Cameron, I'm sorry. Welcome, my friend. How are you? So after finishing A Course in Miracles, I set it aside. I had other things to explore. I continued my meditation. I continued my yoga, other things as well, diving into a lot of non-duality. One of the most important books I ever read was Douglas Harding's The Headless Way. It literally changed things in an instant. Simply looking in the right direction, and everything changed. The three books, I think, with the biggest current throughout my life is the Bhagavad Gita, the three holy texts, let's say, because of course there's other books as well, but there's three perennial classics: the Bhagavad Gita, the Tao Te Ching, and A Course in Miracles. Let's see. T says, Zadie, how far away for you from the completion of conversion? I think, well, I'll let her answer. I was thinking she said October, but now I can't remember. Burpee Reaper is in the house. How's the shoulder feeling? So, in case anyone's wondering, Burpee Reaper did not get Indian food last night. He got pancake after pancake after pancake after pancake. I think he got all the pancakes. I think now, today, there's an international pancake shortage brought about by the unleashed appetite of the Burpee Reaper. If you went out to get pancakes today and you couldn't get them, blame the Burpee Reaper. Dottie says she's about halfway now, hoping it will be finished in about 9 weeks. That's awesome. Yeah, much sooner than I thought. Duncan Walsh is in the house. Duncan, how are you? Hey, Duncan, I don't know if you're following Leo Said So. Leo Said So stepped up to a huge challenge today. 300 burpees, 100 nasal breathing, followed by 100 traditional 6 counts, followed by 100 1 pumps. And when he was done, he looked in the camera and said, "This one's for Duncan Walsh." I think he laid down the gauntlet. Leo stepped up. Oh, wow. Reaper says, I can see black smoke coming from homes about 10 miles away. And sirens? Man, I hope it's nothing serious. T says, Dottie, is it, it'll be awesome when finished. Will it be for van life or for occasional trips? She's taking a big one when she's finished. Duncan asks what's going on with the smoke. Yeah, I hope everything's okay. Cameron says, I wonder what topics we are discussing. Well, I was talking about Course in Miracles, Dao De Jing, Bhagavad Gita, other topics along those lines, finding our own inner peace, forgiveness, all that stuff. But we're also talking about van life and pancakes and burpees. But Cameron, it's an open subject. Anything you want to throw out there that is of interest to you, that, of course, I steer away from politics. Because not that I'm afraid to talk about politics. I'll be honest, I'm tired of politics. In the Tao Te Ching, they say that the best leaders we don't even hear from. And we think we're doing it all ourselves. That's the way it should be. I'm just tired of being bombarded and bombarded and bombarded. So here, we got a little bit of peace of mind. Not that we don't talk about serious stuff. We can turn on the news for the other stuff. Sanji says, I have not full read the Bhagavad Gita. How do you find it reading the whole, and what changed after that experience? I've read it probably once a year for 30 years. And I dive into it continuously. And I have a copy almost always by my side. I have a copy by my bedside. I find it to be a guidebook for life that is applicable to almost everything that I do. I just need to dive in. And almost any time I skim through and find my eyes resting on a certain paragraph from a chapter, then that seems to be exactly what I need to hear. But every time I read it, each and every time, not just the occasional diving in, but when I take that big deep dive once a year, it seems like I deepen the experience and I also see it in a new light at the same time. It's the same, I'm rereading the Tao Te Ching right now. About a month ago, I finished the Bhagavad Gita for my yearly reading. And now I'm really feeling called to not just do a year study of A Course in Miracles, but to really recommit my life to its practice once again, because it feels right. It's steeped in the language of Christianity. I'm not a Christian. However, at this point in my life, rereading it, studying it again, I see the deeper, that the terms that are used aren't exclusive for Christianity. So, Sanju, I highly recommend diving into the Bhagavad Gita. Eric LaPointe is here, says, hello, the Burpee Reaper, Mocha, Dottie, B, and Duncan. Reaper can only see the smoke. Sending out prayers in your direction, Reaper. Oh, here we go. Dottie says, I will be living in the van. Living in it next couple of weeks. It's the trip in October, right? Dottie says, first like for Eric. Much appreciated. T says, Dottie, I've always wanted to van life, but being in a wheelchair user, I'm not sure it's possible solo. I think it is. I think it would take some work on the van to make it accessible, but I would willing to bet that it is. I think Dottie would probably know more. Reaper says, "All right, the department got on that fire quick. Awesome. The fire is out. Perfect." Someone says, "Well, I can see that. See you like a wise person. See like a wise person." Um, that's iffy. That is iffy. I don't know. I think that all of us have an ability to tap into a higher wisdom at the right time if we're open to it. And I think occasionally I'm able to tap into it. Most importantly, I think um, that I don't take myself so seriously. Two, I know that I don't know. I'm okay being uncertain. As a matter of fact, the more uncertain I find myself in most times, the better off I seem to be. Cameron says, "Can you suggest some books to read?" Um, I just mentioned the Bhagavad Gita. I think one of my favorite versions is Stephen Mitchell's translation, as well as the wonderful teacher Eknath S. Warren. ECKNATHEASWAREN. I think that's a great place to start. As well, you know what? I absolutely love Deepak Chopra's The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success. Dottie says, "I think it can be done, Bumble, if your van is adapted for a wheelchair." That's what I was thinking. Let's see. T says, "Yogi, is it a whole year?" The workbook is for a whole year. The only stipulation is you don't do more than one lesson a day. You can work on one lesson for more than a day. But actually, I first completed the whole year in 2009. And it took me well over a decade to be able to do it. As I mentioned, it's a course on lightening up the ego, lightening up on how we hold and approach the world, approaching the world and other people, and through forgiveness, joy, ease, and love. And that's not easy. It is, because it's who we are, but we approach it from who we aren't. We approach it from the ego level. Once we reduce our reliance upon the ego to navigate to life, it's easy. I hope, here's what I love about YouTube and the live stream. I get to demonstrate it every day. And in A Course in Miracles, they say we teach what we need to learn. So when I come here, whatever anyone brings me, it's a gift. It's a practice. I get to dive in. I don't take anything personally. I don't take anything seriously, unless I do. And then I have that choice. And the choice is always, can I choose peace instead of this? Let's see. Daddy says, "My van has a ramp that was used for wheelchairs when it was an ambulance." Awesome. T says, "Daddy, yeah, I've seen it as a couple. I've seen some van life get attacked, so it's a concern." Let's see. Eric says, "Let's hear them." Cameron? Oh, yeah, Cameron. Any suggestions of your own? Happy to hear. Leo said so. "Good afternoon, Brother Eric. Great work this morning, my guy. You are a beast." Hey, I was inspired. I was inspired by Leo said so. I was inspired by the Burpee Reaper. And I was inspired by Jacob, big time. As well as our friend Eric LaPointe. And Brian Lane always inspires me. But hey, the conversation that we had yesterday, I had no intention of doing 300. Didn't even occur to me. I was going to do 100, maybe 150. And then I thought, you know what? Reaper stepped up yesterday. He did those 6 counts as much as he didn't want to do the 6 counts. And then he went on. And I knew, I didn't see it yet, but I knew Leo was going to, I had no doubt that he was going to get 300 reps. No doubt at all. So I got to 150 and I thought 200. I got to 200 and I thought, you know what? Let's get that 300 that we all talked about. Hey, Duncan, are you still here? Duncan, are you connected with Leo Said So? T says, Daddy, that's cool. Reaper says, there he is, Leo. Leo gets a salute from Eric LaPointe, a salute from Burpee Reaper. Well-earned salute. Highest praise in the Burpee community. Hey, Eric, did you see Leo's reps yet? Eric LaPointe says, living the dream. Sanju says, I was 8 years old when I adopted a stray dog, and we showed her a lot of love. But after a few months, my mom brought a fancy breed. We kicked out the stray dog to the streets. It haunts me so much. I would imagine so. I think it would me as well. You know what? The only way to approach it is you got to forgive. You got to forgive yourself. You got to forgive your family. You got to forgive the situation. Had things been able to be any different than they were, they would have been different than they were. However, Eric LaPointe says, lesson learned to better yourself, Sanju. Sometimes they are hard lessons, and indeed they are. Here's the approach to forgiveness through the Course in Miracles. It isn't that you forgive yourself because you made mistakes. It isn't, that's not a bad thing though. It isn't that you forgive yourself because you realize that you didn't know any better. You don't forgive yourself or your parents or anyone else for any other reason other than right now, this moment is all you have. For any of that to have an effect on you, for anything like that to have happened, means you have to think about it. You have to bring the past. You have to bring in a version of the past. You have to bring an imagined past into the present that contains all of reality right now. And in this moment, you can just let it all go. Because now your heart is bigger. Now your heart is open. Now you have more room to love everything, to love every breed of dog, to love every person, to love the entire world. That little episode when you were 8 years old broke your heart, continues to break your heart, and now you have infinite space. Your heart broke so it can be spacious and open and loving, and now you can love more than you ever loved before. You're more capable of loving now than you were when you were 8 years old. Daddy says, I think people being attacked is rarity, and a lot of YouTube and life channels use anything as clickbait to grow their audience. This is true. Reaper says, what an intro, Sanju. You know, as Eric Point says, those are hard lessons. But now you have this moment and you get to ask yourself, can I choose peace? Can I choose love? Can I send that little 8-year-old boy? Can I send that dog? Can I send my parents? Can I suspend the reach of time and just send it all love? Send everyone love. Going back into the Course in Miracles, they say, teach only love. And remember, the Course says that we're all teachers. We teach what we're meant to learn. We teach what we need to learn. Sanju, thank you so much, my friend. Leo says, we got that work in for sure. A convo led to straight hustle. Yeah, it did. That's the amazing thing. You know, you put a couple burpee people in a room together and something bad is going to happen. But something so bad that you get a lot out of it. Man, Leo was sweating. I absolutely love two things. Well, a couple things. Your 6 counts were spot on. And I was absolutely amazed that you cruised through those on 100 nasal breathing. At the same time, I got a huge smile when you said that sucked. Because you know what? It sucks every single time I do them. Every day. Reaper says, Leo, you are seriously crazy. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. But you know what? He didn't get there alone. He had the Burpee Reaper whispering in his ear. It takes crazy to recognize crazy. Eric Point says the burpee is an influence, a good one. You know what? Some people who are friends with Eric LaPointe right now might not realize that how new burpees are, because he stepped up so bigly. Is that the right word? He stepped up so bigly, so hugely. He stepped up with authority, and has become like such an integral part of the YouTube community that it almost feels like, you know, we know him from burpees. When in fact, we know him because one day he was having a stressful day and found the right people. The right people, Burpee Reaper, who's a bad influence on everyone. And now look at Leo. Leo's turning into a bad influence on everyone. If it wasn't for the Burpee Reaper and Leo, and Jacob, of course, I would have been content with 100 reps today. I would have done 100 reps. I would have done my isometric exercises, my wall squat, my planks, and called it a day. But that little voice of Reaper and Leo said so, and Jacob said, what the heck? Go ahead and do 301. Specifically, it was Reaper that had me do 301. I could have did 300, but that voice of Reaper said, you know what? Get one more. Reaper said, I'm glad Eric said it. Reaper says, meet Duncan. Speaking of crazy. Duncan's pretty darn crazy, that's for sure. I'm not sure there is any crazier ones. T says, send you above. I much appreciate Sanju. Very much appreciate him. He gets some thumbs up. And Squirrel Step is here. When 3 go for a walk, I will always be the teacher. And you do. Every time you come in. Hey, I don't know if guys saw Squirrel Sniper's earlier comment. He is re-embarking, after, I think he said, a 35-year hiatus. Here's what I'm finding. When I can't pronounce something, I take the scattergun approach. Throw out so many words that one of them have to be right. You let me know which one. 35 years, and he is going to start his burpee journey. Hey, when's the launch date, Squirrel Sniper? Reaper says, yep, all I can hear was Leo's breath and you, Eric. Great work. T says, let's see. There she goes. Dottie says, Or I'm sorry, T says, Daddy, sounds awesome. I don't blame you. Jealous, to be honest. Hey, you know what? You're both in Great Britain. Um, when the van is up and in action, maybe a day trip. Just a suggestion. I know I say you're both in Great Britain, and that could be, you know, 1,000 miles away, but T says, I saw some of Jacob's. Wow, yeah, Jacob's intense. He was moving today. I can't believe how quickly he was moving after his workout in the sun yesterday. Daddy says, I've been trying the last 5 years to get a suitable van to fulfill my dream of traveling. This was my third van, but it was awesome when it's done. But it will be awesome when it's done. And you know what? It wasn't, not to say too much of Daddy's journey because it's her journey. But this van didn't come easy either. There was some issues along the way, that's for sure. Reaper says, I knew it, Eric. Was like, who was that for? Nice. Eric Extra is always okay. Yeah, sometimes you got to put that stamp of authority, you know? And you know what? If you spend any time with Burpee Reaper, you know he always goes the extra mile. Always. Eric LaPointe says, yes, thank goodness for that stressful day. You never know what's good thing or bad. Exactly. Exactly. Every situation offers something. T says, Daddy, I wish you all the best on your venture. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. I'm really looking forward to it. I hope she shares and shares and shares. I love every part of that part of the world. Wales, Scotland, Ireland, Great Britain. Score Stepper says, one, not I, but thanks for the mention. Score Stepper says, smart, why not? Exactly, why not? Any chance we're going to be able to catch it? Maybe video? Maybe a live stream? Everyone starts where they start. T says, squirrel, cool. T says, Yogi, I think we both not at opposite sides of the country. If one were to drive across Britain, how long would that take? In either direction, in any direction. Don't think I ever thought about that before. Reaper says, appreciate you, Eric. And hey, not too bad. I'm not too far behind in this conversation. As a matter of fact, I'm all caught up. T says, to all those who do burpees have connections to the forces military. I know some of you do. I don't. Well, I do through, Milka and my dad. Burpees were a mainstay conditioning when I wrestled, when I played football, in martial arts. so they were always there. But doing them this way, doing burpees for the sake of doing burpees, um, for me, I came across some videos on YouTube. Max Edwards, the Busy Dad, and the Iron Wolf, Lee Hazard, um, were the ones that really caught my eye. I love the fact that the Busy Dad was doing a straight out, all you can get session in 20 minutes. And I love that Lee Hazard and the Iron Wolf were doing marathon sessions with a mixed modality. Reaper says, I do not tea. For me, it's the best cardio for quick, fast, and in a hurry time. I agree. Dottie says she will be sharing lots of videos of places I visit and the history. I'm really looking forward to that. This is my time to uh, see it through the eyes, see the world through the eyes of my friend Dottie. And you know what? I couldn't pick for better eyes to see that part of the world through. She has a keen eye for nature, that's for sure. T says, from the top of England to south, I guess about 9 or 11 hours. Interesting. Dottie says, yes, I think so. Bumble, 15 hours from Skye. T says, Scotland, I believe, is about 3 to 4 hours. East or west of England and south, I'd say 5 to 8 hours because London. Squirrel Semper says 16 hours lands in Cornwall to Dungas. 16 hours, 1 minute. Can't forget that minute. It's that minute that will make you late every time. I just love the countryside, all of Great Britain. England itself, Wales, Scotland, Ireland. It feels ancestral to me. That is where I belong. Although our good friend Hybrid Jim says no. That maybe I'm romanticizing it, and I probably am. But you know, the scenery itself just looks wild along the shore. I know that the forests aren't what they once were. It's still so beautiful, though. T says, Dottie, not too far away from me. Not far from Heathrow. I heard that before, Squirrel Sniper. Sniper says, some say Jesus was buried in Wales. I have read that, and of course I've read the Jesus was a yogi, spent time in India. Who's to say? We do have the missing years of Jesus to consider. Sniper says it's also connected to King Arthur. Daddy says not too far at all, Bumble, about 1.5 hours. Sorry, guys. That was a phone call. So, Dottie, are you saying that you two are about 1.5 hours away? T says, Squirrel, never heard of that, but don't follow religion much. Sniper says Last Supper and the Knights of the Round Table. Interesting connection there. T says, Dottie, it'd be nice to see the conversion and yourself in future, if possible. That would be wonderful. Let's see. I'm going to do a quick cruise through on YouTube and just see what's going on. I know that sorry, Noble said he was going live sometime. Our friend Night Watcher was on Goldie's earlier. It says he still has a fever. So sending out some positive thoughts for him. I want to send out some prayers to our friend Selina and her sister Dana. Selina's a caregiver for her and whoever else might be in need. Oh, let's not forget, our friend Barb is not doing well right now. So prayers to Barb, prayers to Wolf as well. Let's see. Dottie says, there's lots of myths and legends on Author. Yeah, I always loved my favorite being the Myths of Avalon. Marion Zimmerman Bradley. Dottie says, well, I'll make a point of coming to visit. Man, I love hearing that. Connections made. Squirrel Sniper says, did you know that Egyptian hieroglyphics can be deciphered with ancient Welsh? I didn't know that. Wow. T says, I didn't know that about Night Watcher. Yeah, he came in yesterday and said he had a fever. I think he's a little upset with me as well. T says, how's Flower? Flower was in for a little bit yesterday. Says she's been going to bed early, which is good. Although we miss her presence here. But you got to get that rest. T says she didn't know that. No, I didn't know that either. Dottie, did you know that? Squirrel Simper says, Dottie, have you heard of the late Ross Broadstock? Let's see, Dottie says it was a king portion who had a castle in Wales at Begulert. T says, I'm aiming to go to bed earlier tonight. I am as well. So it won't be a super long live stream. Maybe another 20 minutes or so. I was staying up later and later, pushing for those watch hours. Squirrel Sepper says he had a castle called Britain's Hidden History. He had a channel called Britain's Hidden History. Dottie says, I have Squirrel. He wrote a lot of interesting books. Awesome. Joe Delaney is here. Joe says, hi, Yogi. Joe, how are you, my friend? Sniper says he was following the works of Wilson and Blackett. Joe says hi to everyone in the chat. B says it's hot in the UK today. I've got some ice cream to have soon. Awesome. Joe's doing well. So, guys, give me one moment. I'm going to step away. I forgot to take my little herbal sleep supplement. Not only did I forget to take it, I forgot to bring it in the room with me. So I got to go run and get it. I will be right back. Sorry about that, guys. So, hey, Joe, I posted on my community page. I'm going to need to repost it to make sure it's current. Your interview is coming up. You could remind me what day that is, or remind everyone. I'm going to see if I can find it on our on my dashboard. Dashboard? Is that what it's called? Community page? There it is. Joe Delaney and Yoga with Goga, transformation through healing, my story. This is Joe Delaney's story. It is upcoming. It's going to be June 23rd. So that's 6 days, less than a week, guys. Highly, highly recommend. I'm going to reshare it so it stays current. Give me 1 second, guys. It's going to be big because Joe's got something to share. Not only does Joe have something to share, we all have something to learn about healing, but about deep, deep, deep healing. Healing trauma that we might not even be aware that we have. That's the big thing. Joe says Sunday the 23rd. Yep, this coming Sunday. So it's coming up. Less than a week away. T says, Joe, what's the interview about? Sniper says, anyone a James Bond fan? I do like James Bond. I didn't like every actor that played James Bond. I liked the last one. I like Daniel Craig. I think he, in my opinion, he was even better than Sean Connery. And I liked Sean Connery. Actually, Roger Moore was the one I grew up with at the movie theater. Sean Connery was the one that we watched on TV as a kid. But for me, the only real two James Bond, Sean Connery and Daniel Craig. In the books, James Bond was blondish. And no one else looked like they were physically capable of doing what James Bond was supposed to do, except for Sean Connery, maybe Pierce Brosnan, maybe, and Daniel Craig. Goldie's here. Goldie says, hi there, lovely people. Hi there, lovely Goldie. Joe Delaney says, Eric explained the interview well. Thank you so much, Yogi. You're welcome, my friend. Thank you. So, T, if you didn't hear, it is about deep healing. It's about healing trauma and how we don't realize how trauma plays throughout our life. That every one of us has experienced some form of trauma in our lives, and we never process it. And yet it continues to act out throughout our lives. Every miserable thing that we've ever accomplished is a result of the trauma that we've experienced at some point in our life. And it just keeps, we could call it trauma or bodily karmic payout. The body is storing karma and then we act through it. Unfortunately, we can never act through it enough to get to a healing. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be brought into awareness. That's the deep yogic approach. Everything changes through awareness. Awareness means healing, because if you're not aware of it, nothing ever changes. It's also the most difficult thing to do, because who wants to be aware of past trauma? Who wants to re-experience a pain so deep that they shove it so far down inside of them that it surfaces as addiction. It surfaces as failed relationships, failed careers, all kinds of stuff. But it's the most important work you can ever do. And Joe Delaney did it, and he continues to do it. I don't know as we're ever healed. I think we're always in the process of healing, and that's enough. Daddy's going to sleep. I think I heard someone say nighty-night, or I saw. Dottie says she's a James Bond fan. Now, I could be mistaken, but I think in Great Britain, you have to be a James Bond fan and you have to love the Beatles. Although our friend Hybrid Jim does not love the Beatles. I'll have to ask him about James Bond. So, yeah. You know how much easier it would have been, the second law of thermodynamics, the law of entropy, how much easier it would have been for Joe Delaney to coast through life, to say, this is it. This is how life is supposed to be. I'm overweight, not just overweight. She was, in her own words, Joe Delaney was a beast. And it's probably easier to be that way when you're there and to keep swallowing the trauma over and over and over again, never allowing yourself to heal from it, if you're even aware of it. And yet, Joe Delaney dug down deep and yanked it out and examined it and lived it and expressed it and began healing. I get emotional when I talk about Joe. The immense courage. Every time I talk about Joe, it's inspiring. And I'm inspired by Joe. I'm inspired talking about her, and I'm inspired by her. So I hope that did it justice, Joe. Squirrel Sniper says, Donnie, from memory, Moonraker, Roger Moore, Jaws. I did like Jaws. He was a great villain. Richard Keel was also in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Longest Yard, and other stuff too. The villain with metal teeth, met a girl with pigtails. Should she have braces? I don't remember. T says, Joe, Yogi sounds very interesting. Definitely want to see the interview. I hope everyone tunes in. Donnie, have a good night, my friend. She's off to bed. A lot of woodwork to do in the morning. It is a work of love for our friend Dottie. T says, Yogi, I've suppressed trauma and had issues. Yeah, you've hinted at that in some of our conversations, T. My heart goes out to everyone who've experienced that trauma so deeply that the only means that they knew was to suppress it. And of course, is it ever really suppressed? Because we acted out. We acted out through all of our life. T says, I'm not a James Bond fan, but British. I was mistaken. What about Beatles, T? Eric Point says, the Oracle channel is what our friends are. The Empress of the New World needs to visit to build her channel. She can go one-on-one on my videos, see the channel, and go from there. And he helps you. Awesome. I will mention that to her. Hopefully I'll be chatting with her in person, or at least messaging soon. Usually every couple of days. She was taking a trip up to beautiful Pennsylvania, I believe. I'm subscribed to Oracle. You don't get the opportunity to visit too much, though. Joe Delaney says, definitely ongoing healing, agreed. Yeah, I think if we ever step up and say, well, I'm done, I'm healed, we haven't reached the depth yet. Greg Dayton is here. Greg, how are you? Appreciate you coming back, my friend. Saying hello to Goldie. Joe Delaney says, agreed, Mr. LaPointe. I learned from the live I caught earlier. I have to go and watch the rest to understand. Great says, hello, nice to meet you all. Greetings from California. Hey, Greg, what part of I know you mentioned it. I forget now. What part of California? Joe says he's taken, or Greg said he's taken some naps today. Happens when you get older like me. I'm not too far behind you, my friend. Let's see, Squirrel Sniper said that 007 comes from Dr. John D., the Queen Elizabeth I, right? Handmaid, scientist, and magi. I didn't know that. Interesting, Squirrel. Let's see. T says, Yogi, I surprised something big from age 14 to mid 30s. It surfaced and flooded me. Uh, I just felt previously uncomfortable and had 50 pieces of 5,000 pieces puzzle, but made no sense to the flooding. Um, I'm not sure I fully got that, T. Something big, uh, 14 to mid 30s, and it surfaced and flooded me. All right, that part I get. You know what? I don't think that flooding that we get from from that resurfacing of the trauma um, ever makes sense. Whoever knows why it's released? Maybe we just can't hold anymore. Just overwhelms us. It's it's like a dam. The pressure keeps building up, and eventually something gives. We can only hold our hurt for so long, and we can only readdress it. We can only redirect it. We can only redirect it in harmful ways for so long. Something will give. Our health, emotional, physical, and in some ways, that's not that's not always so bad. Painful, yes, but at least when it starts to surface physically or emotionally, then we start getting some kind of help. T says suppressed, not surprised. Yeah, it takes some deep healing, T. And sometimes we can only do it a little bit at a time. It's just, it hurts too much to hold all at once. Cody says, yes, Greg is an awesome supporter and has a lot of time on his hands. I appreciate Greg being here. Came in earlier this afternoon. I met him over at Goldie's live stream. Goldie has a new video up too that I need to make sure that I check on soon. Greg says, Stockton, he was born in San Francisco in 1954. If never been to San Francisco, I would love to go to San Francisco. One of my all-time favorite books, The Dharma Bums, Jack Kerouac, largely takes place, not entirely, but largely in San Francisco. And of course, as a deadhead through the 80s, I had dreams of visiting Haight-Ashbury as a nod. T says, I like Beatles music because my parents was into that music and it was played regularly when I was growing up. Yeah, the Beatles were basically the soundtrack of my life. Always being played somewhere. Greg says, hey, B, I could talk to Beatles all day. I could as well. So could our friend Noble. I pretty much worship them. Yeah, you know what? Hey, Greg, here's an interesting thing. As a kid, my favorite Beatle was Paul McCartney. And then in my early teens, John Lennon, you know, the anti-establishment route. And then as my own spiritual path developed, I turned to George Harrison. Sorry, I got to leave poor Ringo out of the conversation for a moment. Only now, in the past few years, to come full circle and fall back in love with Paul McCartney. I think he was the ultimate Beatle. Musically, he could do it all. Musically, he could still do it all. Um, However, not to entirely leave Ringo Starr out, I've become totally enchanted with his drumming. He's underrated, but if you go back, when I go back and I listen to the Beatles, for two things, the bass line um, of Paul McCartney and the drumming of Ringo Starr, I'm just amazed at what I hear. Uh, just the perfect drummer, because he wasn't flash, he was all substance. And when he drums on Rain, it is absolutely amazing. And even he said he doesn't know who that is because it was above his drumming pay grade. He entered a whole nother level. Goldie says, my dad was born in 49. My dad was born in 1927. Score Cypher says the Beatles albums all was designed to be very hypnotic. Interesting. You think even the early ones? T says, Squirrel, because of my PTSD, I can disassociate. I've regressed while in that state, but not always. My therapist says your brain goes to safe mode when you disassociate. Goldie says her dad is no longer with us. T says, Eric, the point, a friend captured me regressed in a disassociated state on video when I was visiting and staying. I know I've had flashbacks after I come out of it, as I have a video that plays back to me after. Wow. Score Sample says to T, you need to find a different way that the therapist is using. Only you can unlock it. Rely on someone else may be the trigger. Relying on someone else may be the trigger. That could be. Greg said that he says very sorry. Sorry about that. Okay, here we go. Greg says, very sorry, Goldie. I lost my parents and sisters in about the last 11 years. I did as well, my friend. T says, if anyone is rude or kind to me, like nurses I know. Goldie says, I'm sorry for your loss, Greg. However, even if I sound heartless, Goldie, you can never sound heartless, my friend. It was a relief when my dad passed away. You mentioned that once in a conversation, and it doesn't sound heartless. He says, the squirrel, he doesn't trigger it. Life event does with PTSD. It's like he pulled into reliving the trauma from situations that just crop up. Yeah, that is a deep trauma. Just stored within the body, deep within the body, stored in the very cells of the body. How we deal with it, I'll be honest with you, I don't know. There's probably different ways for each and every one of us. The right therapy, the right therapist, the right modality. For some, it might be as simple as meditation, breath work. For others, it might be somatic dancing or somatic therapy, somatic yoga. Greg says, Sir Paul McCartney is a billionaire. Yeah, he is. Well deserved, too. T says, Yogi, is it Paul or John that's birthday is 18th June, same as my dad. I think it's Paul. I could be mistaken though. Squirrel Semper says the Tavistock Institute, London, controls the influence of the masses through music, TV, and cinema. Interesting. It pays to be introspective, to look inside and see how we're being triggered by anything, by trauma or by outside influences, as Squirrel Sniper was saying. Greg says, thank you to Goldie. Effing cancer got my sister and my dad. Sorry about that, Greg. Somehow, by a miracle, I'm still here. Yep, Joe Delaney says it's Paul. That's what I thought. And Goldie says, you're still here, Greg, because you still have a purpose. Wise words. Mocha says, Paul McCartney's birthday is tomorrow. Happy birthday to Paul McCartney, who once again is my favorite Beatle. Let's see. Yep, June 18th, 1942. Everyone's saying hi to Mocha. Eric Point says, Bumblebee, I feel the name fits you. It does. You bounce around flower to flower, creating a better and new life all around you without anyone realizing. Nice. Very nice, Eric Point. Greg says, Goldie, I hope you're right about that. So let me slide down. I'm going to go back to the comments, but I saw that Mayhem and Miracles. Maja is here. Maja says, hi, Yogi. Need to give a big shout out to Mayhem and Miracles because I would not be. I did the same. I came on James Gipe's live. I met Mayhem and Miracles through James Gipe. He was a huge help. James Gipe was a huge help. Still is a huge help. But I'm going to be completely honest. Some magic happened on Mayhem and Miracles. Some miracles happened on Mayhem and Miracles. Because, yes, I met some people who've turned out to be good friends from James Gipe. And this is no way, in any way, I'm not comparing the two. Or contrasting. Just what happened to me, my experience, is that I made connections that proved to be invaluable through Mayhem and Miracles. The reason being, as she explains, if you listen to her for 5 minutes on her live stream, be there to help other people. Don't just go in and say, hey, I want to grow my channel. Hey, I need this. Hey, I need that. Go there to work. Show up at Mayhem and Miracles to have fun, to hear a great conversation, and to go to work. Helping other people. What do you need? What can I do for you? How can I serve? Any life, any part of life, any time in life, if you ask yourself, how may I serve? You're going to be working for a higher purpose. Life is going to have more meaning for you and the people in your life. And you know what? Everyone's in your life. Every single one is in your life. I always go back to John Donne, No Man's an Island. We're all here for each other. Or as Ram Dass says, we're all walking each other home. So, I saw Masha was here, and I wanted to make sure that I got that in quickly. Masha, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I most definitely would not have, it wouldn't have happened this quickly, if ever, honestly. Joe Delaney says, that's a beautiful analogy of Bumblebee. It certainly is. T says, Mocha, I knew it was one of the Beatles' birthday. As my dad would say, he was born the same day and year. Awesome. So, I'm going to scroll down here. Squirrel Sniper says, to T, I see. I hope you find that missing piece. The altar that has the information will present themselves, and you will be informed. Beautifully said from our friend Squirrel Sniper. Greg says, by the way, Greg, Master Sergeant retired Mocha is a huge Beatle fan as well. Greg says, Ringo and Paul just keep going at 84 and 82, still doing concerts. And they look great. Paul McCartney just posted his yoga routine. He actually still does eye exercises that he learned from the Maharishi back in '67. Still practices transcendental meditation, still practices yoga. Squirrel Sniper says, I just love bees. I love them too. Especially bumblebees. Always happy to see them. So I'm going to skip down a bit. Sorry, guys. Okay, I'm not too far behind. Maja says, hi, Greg. Nice to meet you. I am not at all surprised that Squirrel Sniper would ask about this. Greg, your thoughts that Paul McCartney died in November 1966 in a car crash and was replaced by a stand-in. I'll be interested to hear what Greg has to say. Also, as well as you, Sniper. Greg says, yes, Canada, very cool. Great musical artists from there. The Guess Who. I'm going to go out on a limb and say the Guess Who. Greatest Canadian band, better than Rush? I don't know. You guys tell me. Different than Rush, of course. Better. Is any one band better than the other? I guess it depends on the band. I think we can probably say yes. I do like the Guess Who. I'm not a huge fan of Bachman Turner Overdrive, and they're sort of a derivative of the Guess Who. Gordon Lightfoot, not a band, but a Canadian treasure. Passed away, was it 2 years ago or just a year ago? Greg says, hi, Sniper, that was a dumb rumor. It sold albums, though. Sniper says, Greg, did you notice that the next album cover had Paul covering his face with his own hand? That's a long time to for that to carry on, though, without, something surfacing one way or the other, that it was true or not true. Greg says, the Rolling Stones are my number 2 group. For me, I love the Stones. I got to go with, probably with Grateful Dead. I think. It changes. I'm a huge Dylan fan. Again, not a group, but I love Bob Dylan. Maja says, have a great stream. Yogi, thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you stopping by. Squirrel Sniper says, and the one after had them crossing the zebra crossing outside Abbey Roads, and Paul the only one in barefoot. Greg Dayton says, yes, Sniper, I did notice all the clues. That's the Beatles for you. Yeah, they certainly weren't above playing into the rumors. Maja says, take care, everyone. Take care, Maja. Again, thank you so much, my friend. Squirrel Semper says, no, grade 8, and that's the Tavistock Institute. I'm going to have to look that up. Oh, whoa, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm going to look that up, Sniper. I got to agree 100% with Greg Dayton. That's why I got so excited. The great Neil Young from Canada. Exactly, the great Neil Young from Canada. I love Neil Young. You know what I love about Neil Young? He stayed a hippie. Does not get any better than Neil Young. Saw him in concert with Crazy Horse. Greg says, I love many kinds of music. Greg, what do you think about jazz? I love all jazz. I'm partial to jazz from the late 40s, Charlie Parker era, all the way up to early 70s with the jazz rock fusion. From 59 to 65 with Coltrane's Love Supreme. I think that's right there. That's the golden age of jazz for me. That's the sweet spot. Let's see. Goldie says, Greg, I believe I drove you crazy with Roxette. Greg has a great question. Goldie, when do you sleep? As soon as the live stream ends, which is going to be in about 5 minutes, guys. It was actually going to end at about 6, but we had some great people show up. I could probably sit and have an entire live stream talking music with Greg Dayton. Greg says, no jazz for me, but I love me some Motown. You know what? A few decades ago, I really, really loved Motown. And I grew less and less. I talked about this with Mocha before. We've talked about Motown. Motown at its best is awesome. But then at a certain point, they began rearranging songs for different artists. Same song, but rearranged for different artists. And it had to fit a formula. And once everything has to be formulated, this is why so many great artists got their start in Motown, but became musical geniuses when they left. Stevie Wonder, Sam Cooke. I think maybe Sam Cooke especially. Although I think Mocha would argue for Stevie. For me, I think Stevie would have been a genius no matter what. But with Sam Cooke, he discovered his voice later in life. And what a beautiful voice. Greg says, my first 45 record was 1966, Smell Yellow by Donovan. Milk and I had a conversation about Donovan. I think it was last week or so. Donovan's still putting out good music. I'm trying to think what my first, I can't remember what my first 45, but I loved collecting 45s. Mocha says, Sam Cooke, you said me. Definitely a classic. He just seemed to find his political and a meaningful voice towards the end of his life. Greg says, Sam Cooke, very good. Stevie Wonder, genius. Yeah. Mocha's going to jump all over that. She loves Stevie Wonder. As everyone should. Give me 1 second, guys. Yeah, most especially I was thinking a change is going to come. Cody says, great Dayton, I'm happy to see you finding new friends. Love talking music. Mocha and I spend hours talking music. Mocha says, Stevie, once he got away from Motel Muzzle, amazing. Greg says, yes, Goldie, it's very cool. I can't thank you for that. And I thank you as well. Actually, I thank Goldie for the introduction and Greg for coming over. I see many, many great musical discussions. Goldie says, what's the least I can do? This way you have company. Mocha says, oh, yes, that's an anthem. Change is going to come. And, man, his voice just fits it so powerfully, poignantly. I can't imagine anyone else doing it. I'm sure it's been covered. I couldn't tell you by who. It's always going to be Sam Cooke. I just think about the beauty of his voice early in his career to just standard pop classics, standard Motown classics. You just didn't see that coming from A Change Is Gonna Come. That should be the soundtrack of every generation, in my opinion, for whatever that's worth. So, guys, I think I'm going to wrap it up for the night. Once again, guys, thank you. I enjoyed this conversation. I love when we can just flow with stuff. Let's see, Mocha says he and his band were turned away from the Whites Only Motels in Louisiana, and that inspired him to write that song. And we're still fully waiting for that change to come. Change is happening. No doubt, change is happening. Goldie says, thank you for a lovely live and chat. Thank you, Goldie. Thank you for a very lovely live and chat. Goldie, I enjoyed the walk. And says, Greg, thank you for coming over. Very much appreciated, Greg. Let's see, T says, thank you, Yogi, and everyone in the chat for a chilled out live. It was chilled out. And I like when we can do that. I feel like a lot of things were covered, you know, from the earlier talks about, I was talking about Course in Miracles and the meaning it has to me. And then we talked about some books. We talked about trauma and healing. Hey, don't forget, guys, Sunday, interview for Joe Delaney. I got it up on my community page. Some important topics are going to be covered. And we all get to know Joe a little bit better, a little bit more. T says, take care and sleep well. Everyone, you too, my friend. Hey, enjoy your ice cream. I know you said you have some ice cream coming up. Greg says, thanks everyone. You guys are effing cool. Hope we can chat soon. I hope so too, because hey, I got to talk to a guy who loves music, who's from San Francisco, and hear his views on the Grateful Dead. We will save that for our next conversation, my friend. T says, sorry, Goldie, I missed you. I was asleep. Eric Point says, another great live tonight, everyone. It was a great live. Eric, thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of what makes it great, as well as our friend Leo said so, and the Burpee Reaper, the one and only, the legendary Mr. Five Pump. It is what it is, the Burpee Reaper. I never get tired of the long introduction for the Burpee Reaper. Mocha says, yes, welcome, Greg. I know Mocha always appreciates having one more person to talk music with. And don't think I didn't note the musical connection with Goldie. T says, Greg, nice to have you here. Vlad the Impaler is here. Says hello, peeps. Hello, Vlad. How are you? Let's see. Greg says, goodbye from Stockton, California, everyone. With that, guys, we're going to say goodnight. Thank you again, everyone. Each and every one. Eric Point says, UK Medic, hi there. Let's see. It's almost a shame to go. But I'm hoping to get just a little extra sleep. Yep. Eric Point says it's Vlad and Medic. Yep. It's an easy connection to make. So, guys, I'm signing off. I will see everyone tomorrow. Basically going to do the same thing. If anyone is around at 5 a.m. my time. That says, no Eric Lope. I could not possibly be Medic. Squirrel Sniper says, greetings, Vlad. "10 a.m. UK time," which isn't a bad time. So, all right, guys. Take care again. I will see everyone tomorrow. Thanks for being here. Very, very much appreciated. See you guys.